start with Arthur's backstory for the 13th time, probably. Anyway, Arthur Morgan was born 1863 to Beatrice and Lyle Morgan. His mother died when he was very young, and his father was a petty criminal and outlaw who was arrested for larceny in 1874. When Arthur was 11 years old, at some point Lyle was killed and Arthur witnessed it, donning his hat afterward. Around 1877, Arthur was picked up by Dutch Vanderlyn and Hosea Matthews. Viewing him as a surrogate father figure, Arthur came to share Dutch's vision of a life lived free from the constraints of civilization and the rule of law. Becoming one of the first members of the Vanderlyn gang, at some point during his youth, Arthur met a girl named Mary Gills, and the two were deeply in love. However, Arthur's preference for a life of crime and the prevalent disapproval of Mary's family caused their relationship to fall through. At some point later, Arthur met and slept with a young waitress named Eliza, resulting in her becoming pregnant with their son, Isaac. Eliza knew about what Arthur was, but accepted whatever support he offered to her and their son, as well as personal involvements in their lives. Arthur would visit Eliza and Isaac every few months, and stay with them for days at a time. One day Arthur arrived at their home and saw two crosses outside. Arthur knew immediately that they were both dead, and later learned that they were killed by robbers, all for $10. The incident hardened Arthur ever since, and he never truly coped with the pain. Alright, so that's my homie's backstory. And I gotta figure out where his journal is. I think this is it's one of these documents. Journal. Okay. First chapter. Yeah, I think I'm probably past it. Until it says read, then I'm gonna start reading. Alright. So this is Arthur, starting off in the beginning of the game. I'm gonna read. I bought this new journal after the last one got destroyed in that fire all those months ago, whenever it was. Haven't written or drawn much in the past few months, but I was missing it more than I thought I would. And finally near a store, so here I am, I guess. After all, that business up north in the fire, we spent a few months in the wilderness, traveling down from the North Grizzlies. Stuck mostly in the western foothills of the mountains during the worst of the winter. Food was easy to find and life was good. Dutch had a lead for some land we were going to buy, but the land did not match up to his criteria, or he got spooked. We were being watched by the law, and that somebody knew who he was, and we never bought it, and we are wandering still. We picked up a couple of new folks in the Grizzlies. Jenny, a sweet young girl we met abandoned on the roadside in Micah, an outlaw Dutch met in a bar someplace. Dutch seems very taken with Micah, who is pretty hot-headed, argumentative, and full of himself. Jose and I are less sure. Guess we shall see. Eventually, we came out of the wilderness and are now holed up outside of Blackwater, although sometimes I stay in town, hunting for opportunities. I might be onto something. We got plenty of money, and the trail we took was so torturous and slow nobody could have followed us south and east or figured out where we were headed. We was thinking about California, but then Dutch and Hosea brought us down to Blackwater. Blackwater has apparently grown a whole lot since any of them was last here. I was told to expect little more than a trading post, but the place is growing fast, and it's almost a small city. The town seems to be riddled with corruption, but there's certainly plenty of money here. It's good to be sleeping in a bed from time to time and living a more civilized life after so long under a canvas. but I do not particularly like being this near to a town. We are living here, camping outside town mostly, hidden in plain sight. I guess life seems pretty easy. Abigail and Marston keep arguing. I wonder why exactly he came back. He cannot seem to decide if he wants to be a father to that boy or his or not. Boy of his or not. That boy of his or not. The arguing is exhausting. I heard talking of a man sounding like Trelawney, but we haven't seen him for many months. Jose and I are not something pretty big. Are onto something pretty big. Might be a lot of cash coming in to do with a real estate scam Hosea thinks he may have discovered. I'm not sure yet. The perfect crime, we think. One where we rob crooks. We are being real careful. It's funny working with Hosea again. The man is an artist of nonsense, even if nothing comes off it. We are having an amusing enough time. It's good to be running scams again. Hosea is a born huckster. He is getting anxious, worried that by lingering in town, we are going to bring undue attention on ourselves. But Dutch thinks he is also onto something big. His word, not mine. Bank money being brought in by boats, apparently. So for now, we are working on both things and seeing what happens. Plan is to flee west into the desert country, someplace if we can. Micah and Dutch are planning to rob the ferry in town. They think it's laden with riches. Cash coming in for the banks, coming in by boat. For once, I am not getting involved in the job. Jose and I are too taken up with our business, which I believe could go very well. And Dutch seems confident that with the group assembled, all will be okay. Plan is for them to carry out the job, then flee into the wilderness out to the west. The next day, Jose and I carry out our scam and join them. Dutch seems happy and excited. He's talking again about California, but he's also talking about a lot of other places. We have been running for weeks. I mean, running more than usual. The job they was pulling in Blackwater, robbing that ferry, it turned into a disaster. Young Jenny got killed, poor thing, while Sean and Mac both got arrested or killed. Nobody seems sure which. Dutch shot a girl. I am not too sure if by accident or design. It seems like it might have been a setup. We took to the hills in an almighty scramble, leaving money and most of our things behind. Then as we were fleeing east over the Grizzlies, an almighty storm hit us. Davy Callender, who had got shot in the gut on the raid, passed away. It was brutal to watch, and the rest of us nearly froze. But we found shelter and had been resting here in some old abandoned mining town while we awaited the thaw. Man, this dude's drawings are trash. Hardly the spring I had been hoping for. Jose and I had been planning a robbery of our own in Blackwater, but I guess that's been abandoned along with the most of what I owned. I am profoundly concerned as to what happens next. Once we leave this place or the law finds us cowering up here, I found a girl. Well, a woman, I should say. Her husband had been murdered by some of Colm O'Driscoll's boys. Nasty business. Ridge, Leviticus, Cornwall. Seems Colm O'Driscoll had the same idea as us. He's been hiding up here, scouting out a train he wanted to rob. We bumped into some of his boys at some farmstead they was robbing. Found that poor woman whose husband that had murdered, and she's now riding with us, as she ain't got no place better to be. Then Dutch being Dutch, and his hatred for Colm being just as powerful as ever it was, whole bunch of us went to pay him a visit in his camp, but he escaped. We grabbed one of his boys, Poor bastard ain't spoken yet, but he will once we freeze him a little, then set Bill on him. Been a bad few weeks, but we're mostly still alive. Dutch being Dutch is busy making plans and figuring out just how we're gonna survive. And Dutch being Dutch, those plans involve robbery and dreams. Damn. Finally a thaw in this god-awful weather. We got off the mountains and rode east into some pretty enough country called the Heartlands. Ain't been this far east in many a year. Hosea seems to know the country a little. Now hold up at a place called Horseshoe Overlook outside of some dumpy little cattle town named Valentine. That's tough. Dutch seems a little better. His eyes are sparkling once more and I can see he's thinking a little clearer. I think we all feel a little happier in spite of Blackwater and that whole mess. Headed into Valentine with Uncle and the girls. Girls went scouting out work. While Uncle and I had a few drinks, he explained more of his theories on existence and barefaced lies about his past. Things took a strange turn. Some fella seemed to recognize me, or us, from Blackwater. Guess we had been holed up there too long, while Jose and I scouted the job that never was. I chased the bastard, and he nearly fell off a cliff. I spared him, and he gave me an ink pen. I hope I won't regret my lenience, but I reckon he got the scare off of his life. Jimmy Brooks was his name. Met some old drunken Valentine. Claimed he was a shootist. Seemed more like a clown. Some poor fool was writing a book about him, or trying to leave in. Leavin was the name of the writer. Jim Calloway was the killer. Apparently Levin needed more information. Asked me to find a few folks who have spent more time in publicity than me and knew old Jim back when he was a real killer. Their names are Emmett Granger, Flaco Hernandez, Billy Midnight, and Black Bell. Horseshoe. Sounds like a troop of clowns. We shall see what kinds of people those who want to be famous murderers is. My hopes are not too high. Jesus Christ. English is hard, Arthur. Took a day off and went off hunting with Hosea. He really seems to be getting his strength back a bunch. Although he was lucky not to die at the big bear, as this big bear he'd been after turned on us. I thought when we was stuck up in the mountains that the cold and the misery would kill him, and we'd bury him like we buried Jenny and Davy. But he pulled through, and he'll live a while yet. I love Dutch like a father, but in many ways I love Hosea even more. He's kind and fair, and like a human being. Dutch is something else. This bear was also something else. Size of a god damn hotel. It was and mean with it. Yeah, okay. Met a strange guy. Thought he was a prophet blind. Comb O'Driscoll slipped through our fingers once more, and I saw my own life slipping through mine. That gentle buffoon we kidnapped, but in the mountains took us to a cabin. We were planning to kill Comb, but he had just gone elsewhere. We shot a bunch of his boys, and one was about to end my life when Curran shot him. This feud, it's bled out from Dutch and Comb's mutual hatred into a loathing that permits all of us and all of them. Still, I found quite a shotgun in the cabin. Valentine. Went off drinking with young Lenny, thanks to my own peculiar genius for trouble when drunk. The evening did not go quite according to plan, but somehow neither of us got killed or arrested for murder, despite my best efforts in that regard. Somehow I don't imagine that the saloon owner in Valentine likes me very much after the mayhem I have caused there. Her Strauss is back lending money, and I'm back collecting it. The work mostly revolts me and shames me. Somehow robbing people honestly with a gun and fists is less repellent than robbing them fully in accordance with the law. It'll be the usual sort of desperados. Sick farmers, pregnant maids, lovesick young men, and other dupes desperate enough and stupid enough to take Strauss's terms. A user's life may be a comfort one, but it is foul work. Strauss. I went to call in alone. Some farmer, local do-gooder. Think I'd seen him in Valentine before when I was fighting that big fella. He begged and coughed and spluttered, and I beat him half to death. Such is life. Such is the world. His boy looked at me like I was the devil, and perhaps for him, I was the whole thing confused. The whole thing confused me. Maybe that's wrong. The whole thing revolted me. My part. These sad, desperate bastards. Their silly expectations of life, and their tawdry reality. The unkindness of existence. I can handle that just fine. But I do not love it. Nor those who try to make things otherwise, I guess. Okay, I'm stopping it commonly. Jose and I went robbing. Just like in the old days. A father and son pairing a pair of clowns at some farmhouse. Stole a wagon, sold it to some rat Hosea had met at some odd place called Emerald Ranch. What goes on there, I cannot tell. But this little purchaser of stolen goods had us go rob his own family. Even by my standards, that was low. But the father and son we robbed was proof that even God makes mistakes sometimes. I snuck in at night, and we robbed the loathsome bastards blind. This fella I took to talking with at the train station told me that I could get decent money if I collected complete sets of cigarette cards and sent them to him. We shall see. Sounds harmless enough. Met an idiot hunting for treasure. Bought a map off him. Wonder if I'll find anything. Met a nice fella taking photos of animals. Albert Mason, I think he was called. Kind and interesting and entirely lost and unused to real country. Even though he seemed to love it. Trying to take pictures of all our biggest predators before they all got killed off themselves by the modern world. Should have gotten him to take a picture of Dutch. He got robbed by a coyote, but I got him his butt back. Got into some god-awful fight in the town saloon. Bill started it. He's wound so tight about something, I reckon he'll start hitting himself soon enough. I was stopped from beating some big yokel to death by a local do-gooder. I could not tell if this made me pleased or really angry. The local crowd seemed to want to see blood, however. Afterwards, Dutch accosted me with old Josiah Trelawney back and quite as slippery and confusing as ever. He'll come and go again, no doubt, and leave none us or what he is. Trelawney told us that Sean had not been killed in Blackwater, but was a prisoner there, held by scalp hunters awaiting payment. Charles Smith, Javier, and I met in Blackwater and rescued that loud-mouthed maniac. Before we'd even cut him free from the tree he was mouthing off at us. Javier said Blackwater is an impossible situation, and I guess I had better forget about all that money. Stuff. All the years wasted earning this stuff. Guess I'll never quite know what happened. But the upshot is we're on the run and known to more folks in authority than we would like. Met a lady scientist, Deborah something or other. Seemed to be more mad than sane, but I don't have much frame of reference for scientists. Wanted me to see if I could help her find dinosaur bones and send her the details, maybe. Saw Mary again. I feel like the luckiest man alive, and I feel like a fool. That woman confused me and plays me for a fiddle like no one else alive. Her little brother Jamie had joined some religious order and needed saving, or so she and the god-awful daddy seemed to have thought. I took him home after a pathetic little squabble. Poor boy. Wonder what will become of him. Education and an unpleasant father have been a terrible curse for him, I fear. As for Mary, I trust I will not make a god-awful fool of myself once more, but somehow I imagine I shall. Took young Jack out fishing as a favor to Abigail many years ago, before she fell so hard for that fool Marston. Perhaps I should have married her. I think part of me has always thought that, yet God damn you, Mary. Jack is a good boy, a dreamer, a boy with a mama who loves him. I wonder if he will find what we seek. Peace and truth, away from all this nonsense and lies. If that is what we still seek. Not that that's a new development. Not sure I know myself anymore. Sometimes I'm not sure Dutch does. As we fished, a couple of Pinkerton agents appeared. Milton was one of them. I forget the other fellow's name. They knew all about me. That's a new turn of events. Apparently there's 5,000 on my head alone after Blackwater, or maybe before. It seemed we may be in real trouble. I just don't know. Dutch don't seem too worried, but I am beginning to have some doubts as to this wisdom in his interference. Met an awful fella who will send me money if I send him fish, so he can send others the fish, pretending he caught them, so they can pretend they caught them while out fishing with them. At least I think that's it. Either way, the man Jeremy Gill was dreadful. Saw Mr. Mason again. This time he was taking pictures of wolves, still doing his hardest to get himself eaten. More problems have befallen us, more running. Leviticus Cornwall, the oil, sugar, rail, and greed merchant. Jeez, oil, sugar, and rail? Greed merchant, whom we robbed a while back, had us ambushed in Valentine. Seemed he has added to the price on our heads. We shot our way out of town and narrowly escaped with our lives. The only amusing aspect of the horror was Herstros getting grazed and acting like he was preparing for his short trip down to hell. After this, we fled the country and headed even further south and east, camping by a lake. This is pretty much new country for me. Charles and I saved a family of Germans who were in the process of getting themselves killed. He's a better man than me. He does not need to think to be good. It comes naturally to him. Like right is deep with us, as opposed to the conflict between good and evil that rages within me. If only we had fled west out of Blackwater, we could be free now, out where we belong, beyond civilization with the savages and the animals. Here we won't ever be at home. Alaskan Jennings. Miss Adler, the widow we rescued a while back, might be the craziest one of all of us. She fights like a cornered polecat, with a rage and a bloodlust that frightens the hell out of me. I ever get on her wrong side and I am a dead man. I don't intend to. She's a fine woman, amusing and good-hearted and decent and angry. I took her shopping to stop her filleting old Pearson right in camp. After we got jumped, she went insane and showed she can kill with the best of us. Rhodes. So turns out we're holed up outside a town called Rhodes, deep in old cotton country. This place has not recovered from the war, and those folks that is sober enough to think are still angry. The drunk, which is most of them, are angrier still, but perhaps for other reasons. Adding to the absurdity, we appear to be planning to deputize ourselves into the local law enforcement, and have already taken down a major bounty on their behalf, but mostly to rescue slippery old Trelawney, who had got himself arrested for some of his usual nonsense. Seems like there is a long-running blood feud between two old families here, and both Dutch and Hosea believe they may be sitting on a lot of gold. We shall see, I guess. Got into a fight with a drunk giant with a tiny head. Yes, that's what happened. Fella was strangling a barkeep who had turned off his liquor supply. Part of some kind of circus act. The show was run by a woman, Marjorie, I think. She's missing a tiny magician. I suppose we all are. He's running away into the woods. Said if I saw him, I'd send him back to them. Rescued a woman from a pair of terrifying freaks. They'd kill her husband. I gave her a lift home. Found the little magician and reunited the odd family. Fella tried to give me the slip a few times, but in the end, seems they love each other even more than they hated each other, or at least it was close. Wanted me to see their show sometime at Saint Denis, and say they'll reward me then, as they were broke now. Saint Denis, might have to go over there. Helped Mr. Mason take another picture, this time of wild horses, and he gave me a beautiful print of one of the wolves that nearly ate him. Met a fella called Miss Margaret, an animal trainer and a showman or showwoman, mistress of danger. Quite a character. Wants me to find some missing animals. A while ago I met an odd man dressed as a lady animal trainer. Are all Englishmen that weird, I wonder. All his animals were as fake as the rest of his act, until I was to find and retrieve a real lion from somewhere or other in Africa. I thought was going to be another dog, but no, it was a real lion. Thing looked like it wanted me for its next meal. Sure did. After hunting a zebra, that was a donkey, and a tiger, that was a cougar, and another lion, that was just a dog, or I think that's right. I think I've lost track of the whole thing. And an assistant that's a real woman, and him a strange English maniac in a dress pretending to be all that he isn't. Remind yourself never to go on the stage. The weird English guy gave me a pretty decent emerald as payment for my troubles. Maybe he wasn't so bad after all. That emerald was about as real as the zebra and worth a whole lot less. Seemed Miss Margaret made idiots out of all of us. What did I expect? A man who dealt in fake tigers gave out real gems? Finally, we have achieved a state of true insanity. For the first time in my life, I'm a deputized lawman. We went off with some moronic dupe deputy working for the alcoholic-drenched Sheriff Gray, pursuing some moonshiners. Dutch is convinced this will somehow lead to riches beyond compare. Seems the one powerful local family, the Grays, ex-Scots, is warring with another proud English family. The Braithwaites like some long-running dispute from the border country. Apparently there's gold or women or something at the root of this, and if either way, we are so deep in the swamp and so entirely lost ourselves. I hope it will take the Pinkertons and their like a long while to find us. We shall see. In the meantime, a new career path in law seems to await. Seems like amongst our other pearls, as gang called, the Lemoyne Raiders won't take too kindly to outsiders or anyone who ain't living in the distant past. Saw an old church, found it interesting, not sure why. Stumbled into this old drunk on the streets of Rhodes. I don't know quite why he made an impression. The world is full of self-pitying drunks. Hell, I hope to grow into one myself. But something about this fella, Jeremiah Compson, blamed everyone else for his plight, lost his career and his home, wanted me to go find a few trinkets at his home. Compson's steed, just north of Scarlet Meadows. Maybe I'll head over there sometime. Went to the house. Don't feel so bad for him now. Feel like a fool. Bastard was a slave catcher. Went to see nice Mr. Compson again. Last thing he'll see. Shot that man's. This time Albert Mason seemed obsessed by getting eaten by alligators. Again, he managed to survive, much more by luck than by judgment. I've met some charming women in my time. Catherine Braithwaite, the mother hen to that particular bunch of roosters, ain't one of 'em. A sore old jug of piss and bullshit I ain't never met. Even Hosea's charms were lost upon her. She refused our offer of selling her back her shine and instead got us to give it away to annoy the saloon owner in town. Hosea put on quite a show until we got interrupted by the bastards we robbed when grabbing the stuff. We just about escaped. On the other hand, I met this poor bastard gray boy, Bew, and his forbidden love, Miss Penelope. Quite the most alive creature we have met down here. Suddenly I'm marching as a suffragette. The looks of loathing on the faces of the local delighted me, while their leader, a Mr. Callahan, amused me. Mrs. Callahan amused me. I don't know much about good causes, nor the joys of democracy, but I enjoyed my little experience. Right, world is certainly changing fast. We went horse thieving, our greed getting the better of us. Believed a yarn spun us by one of that gray family, the patriarchy Tavish, a particularly unpleasant one of what seems a reasonable unpleasant family. He had us believing that the Braithwaite's women owned some highly prized English thoroughbreds or Arab chargers or whatever they was supposed to be, and imagined we was going to be wonderfully rich at the end of it. We felt like prized idiots, so I guess at least some prizes was being handed out. Charles and I went looking for Trelawney, who was staying in Rhodes. He'd been accosted by some bounty hunters who was looking for him and a means to getting to us. Whole thing turned nasty and he'd been treated pretty bad, but we got him out of there. He seemed worried that there might be more following in their wake, so came back to camp with us. There always seems to be more. Bounty hunters, Pinkerton lawmen, everywhere we go. There's more and more civilization. Perhaps this is from now on. We shall see, I guess. This whole place is beginning to give me the creeps. I want to get back in the open country of the West, or what's left of it. But even that ain't the way I remember it. I have been recuperating after an interesting encounter with Colm O'Driscoll. Dutch got it into his mind to meet the bastard, to somehow end all this lunacy. Only Colm did not share Dutch's sense of honor amongst thieves. Whole thing was a setup to kidnap me, then lure all of the rest of us into a trap, so we could get arrested and Colm could disappear away. us away, us somehow carrying off his sin, along with our own, to the gallows. Seems like home is enjoying his modern world even less than we are. More by luck than judgment, I escaped and somehow got back here. More dead than alive, and collapsed into bed for a few feverish days. After much nursing from Mrs. Grimshaw and Mrs. Tilly, and much guilt-ridden apologies from Dutch over his stupidity, I survived okay. My shoulder where I was shot ain't coming down with gangrene, and I will live, if even uglier than before. Things is getting even more insane with the local population. My senses, neither the Greys nor the Braithwaites have a pot to piss in, but I ain't spent too much time with the landed gentry. Whatever else they is, they don't make one believe in the nobility of the aristocracy. Aristocracy. That's tough. Saw Albert again. Bored of fighting animals, he tried to fight gravity. Again he somehow survived. I hope he will now retire from a life even more idiotic and dangerous than mine. Man, I hope I don't die by wolves. I should have went to the house first. Sean? Oh yeah, Sean died. Sean has been killed. I'm more sad than I can admit. I loved that little loudmouthed wrench more than I knew. He was like an annoying little brother to me. What fun we had riding together. And now he's dead. His head shot half off in an ambush. What a goddamn mess we are making of things. Still no Confederate gold, but a shitload of trouble. The fuck is that, nigga? Damn. We've moved again. More trouble with the Pinkertons. More trouble with them locals. More trouble all around. Little Jack's been kidnapped, so we're trying to find him. Apparently some fella in St. Denis, Senor, something or other, took umbrage to our presence and kidnapped him, or heaven forbid worse. We burnt down Braithwaite Manor. We went hunting for him, in an almighty scrap. When we got spoken to again by Agent Milton, this time he asked us for Dutch's head on a platter. We got him to leave, but they ain't too pleased with us. So we headed into Saint Denis to find little Jack. We was told he'd been kidnapped by some local gangster, this Italian feller called Bronte, a local tough guy. We ain't found him, but he's found us. Dutch and I headed into town, and I managed to get myself robbed by a bunch of children. This was a new low, even by my standards. Anyway, we found Mr. Bronte and are going to pay him a call. We better get the boy back soon, not least because if we don't, Abigail will kill the lot of us. All this after we burned down the Braithwaite's Manor house looking for him and made some real enemies of ourselves back in that country. We're now hiding deep in the swamps, trying not to get eaten by wildlife or sunk too deep in the mud. I cannot decide which I like less, the swamps or the city. Both are full of parasites, reptiles and slime, but the swamp's prettier. Dutch is trying to think of where we can run next, but in the meantime we are deep in the swamps, hiding in some disease-ridden old plantation house, mostly swallowed up by nature. Guess we will find Jack, get some money, then flee, but where? These bastards ain't giving up. We're a long way east of land we know, and far from real open country. Met a curious French man in a bar, bought him a drink, and he gave me a picture. Said he was an artist, although I'm not sure I see what is so good about it. Met a monk, helped him free a couple of poor bastards from the island, someplace who were kept prisoner. The monk, what was his name? Brother something or other, was a good fellow. One of these innocent people who make you feel better about beings and even about yourself a little. Must be odd to see all that goodness in the world. Place always seemed dark and brutal to me. Met a weird fellow, wants 100 gallons of moonshine. For love? Never heard such nonsense in all of my life. And I know some talkers of nonsense. Guess I'll go ask that clerk, Alden, Trelawney's disappointed friend, if maybe he knows a way of finding it, as I think there's money in this. I always heard Saint Denis was one of the 7 wonders of the world. If this is so, I don't care much to see the other 6. It's a depressing place that shows you the only thing worse than people is a whole lot of people. I have not ever met a lizard in a suit before. Only now have I, and his name is Angelo Bronte. He's either our salvation or our damnation. This city's strongman, arriving from Italy a few years ago and not knows and controls. Bars. Everything and everyone. He had not harmed Jack, other than feeding him strange foods, and Dutch seems to think that maybe we can get something from this oily dictator. Personally, I don't trust him more than I'd trust any hungry animal not to try and eat me. But for now, we are somewhat safe and hidden. Whole place gives me the creeps. Mary wrote to me, wants to see me again. Oh, Mary, what fools we are. What a fool I am. Felt that. My lord, now I have done everything. I went to a ball, like a fool in a fairy tale. The mayor of Saint Denis, Dutch got us invited by old Senor Bronte, and off we trooped, trussed up like turkeys for Thanksgiving, and waxed and polished and primped to within an inch of our lives. Bronte did not mingle with the other guests, but lorded over the place like a Roman emperor deciding who to have killed for his fun. The place was full of drunks, lunatics, liars, and clowns, but the thing was kind of fun. Managed to not get into too much trouble and may have some business. Opportunities on account of inquiries there, we shall see, I guess. Seeing Bill dressed up like an ambassador and awkward as a schoolgirl was one of the funniest moments of my life. Met Evelyn Miller, the writer, which was amazing for Dutch. Met the mayor. Dutch and Hosea seem to think this dump is a world of possibilities. They want to look into the bank and some other business opportunities. We shall see. As long as we can keep ahead of the Pinkertons and Mr. Cornwall and the rest of them for a while, maybe we shall be okay. Saw Mary and the awful daddy, who has taken to drink, which unsurprisingly ain't improved him a whole lot. What a foul pig he is, taken to hawking off family heirlooms and cursing the world for it. Still a stuck-up son of a bitch. Now Mr. Linton has passed away. I wonder what he wanted for his daughter. Funny thing is, I love her, and yet am a bad lot. Old Daddy is a good, upright man, and yet he treats his daughter like a possession to be mistreated and abused as he sees fit. Strange creatures, man. I don't know. All I know is that I love her, and she both loves and detests me. It never worked before, and it won't ever work now. Yet it gnaws at me. The idea of it gnaws at me like a sickness. I've got to give all that nonsense up. I'm an outlaw, a murderer, a man with a code different to ordinary folks. And Mary ain't never going to be for my world. Oof. We went to a vaudeville show in town. Dancing from France, quite a business. What is wrong with me? Do I really think I can retire someplace nice and live a normal life with a wife? Am I a big enough dolt to believe that is possible? Met that writer Evelyn Miller in the streets. He remembered me from the party. Apparently my petty crime did not go entirely unnoticed. Better keep my head down a little better. He introduced me to a couple of Indians, father and son. Son angry, father with an air of what exactly? Of something both impressive and frightening and kind about him. A great man defeated by powerful and awful forces. I do not know, but his eyes His very manner spoke to me. Somehow I've agreed to help them. Seems they, like us, have problems with that guild ape, Leviticus Cornwall, and his foul empire. We shall see how this pans out. Met a crazy man in Saint Denis, a professor, no less, Marco Dragic. I'm still amazed by what I experienced. He had me control a tiny boat remotely. How? I have no idea. I did not understand any of it, but even though he was annoying and a sharp mouth, he seemed obviously highly intelligent. I have no idea. Wouldn't be the first time I've fallen for the ranting of an intelligent man telling me how to think. Only he didn't tell me how to think. Whole thing was odd. Told me to come see him at his lab at Dover Hill, maybe. Hummingbird Sage. Met a pair of fellows from a chain gang. Black fella named White, white fella named Black. They wanted to kill each other. They begged me to clear off some wanted posters for them. Collected the posters. Old White and Black weren't so innocent as they seemed. Took them in for the bounty. Ain't letting scum like that go free. I'm the only scumbag in these parts gets away with thieving and killing. Oof. Show did. Put him away. Best $40. I went to an art gallery. Seems fine and fancy living ain't quite so different from life in the wilderness. Robbing stagecoaches was an exhibition of painting by the artists I met a couple of times. Charles something or other. French fella. Seems he'd been doing more than painting his models. Their husbands weren't so keen on the liberties he'd been taking with his subject's matter. Whole thing descended into a brawl. Had to help him escape. Oh, that's why. Met this fella, Algernon Wasp. Not sure how to describe him, but I won't forget him anyway. I could not do him justice. Different kind of fella, but he says he'll pay good money for assorted feathers and eggs and whatnot for his creation for various rich women. Gave me a list of things he wanted. Somehow got myself involved in the charming business of Saint Denis culture. The mayor, who knew we robbed him a while back, invited me over to his mansion again. Strange man. Nice and awful. Cynical and caring. Wants to make his city thrive. Doesn't seem to care how he goes about it. Threatened me in order to make me threaten some art professor on his behalf. Why? So the art professor will verify that a bunch of paintings ain't the forgers he believes. They are the genuine article. He thinks they aren't. In order to fill the people with joy that they are looking at a real work of genius. Not a good copy of a work of genius. Yes, I was pretty confused by the whole thing, but I did as I was bid to do. And the professor changed his mind once he saw that I would be happy to turn his mind into nothingness. Found Charles the artist dressed as a streetwalker, trying to flee from assorted men he's offended, fleeing to the South Seas. Wonder if we'll see him there. Again doing Mayor Lemonick's dirty work. I think that's how it's spelled. His first name is Henri, only he spells it Henry. Guess my French is nearly as bad as my English. Now I was threatening a newspaper man into donating to the noble cause of truth and learning. I had to make this guy support a library. He didn't want to, then he did. The fuck is that, a rat? Kieran, that poor kid we spared from old Driscoll gang up in the mountains, is dead. Killed by the bastards. He saved my life and I could not save his. They chopped his head off and tried to kill the lot of us. Mrs. Adler fought braver than any of us. She is driven by the powerful forces I scarcely understand. That's what love has done to her, I guess. I feel like an animal, living out in the mud here. Whole place gives me the creeps. Karen, R.I.P. Seems those of us who thought Angelo Bronte was a lizard in a suit was right, and them as thoughts he was a gentleman thief eager to help us on our merry way was wrong. Bastard sent us into a trap in town, told us to rob a trolley station, no money but the entire police force waiting for us. Dutch nearly died. Lenny fought real hard. The kid is good in a fight and saved us. Excuse me. Dutch is planning some big escape for us all. Some grand master plan. Everything we are attempting here seems troubled. I hope we can get out of here alive. Right now it don't seem likely. Dutch is raging about Bronte's deception or betrayal or whatever. Quite it was. Dutch don't like being made a fool of. Even Micah with all his teasing and needing plays it real cool with Dutch. I would not want to be Bronte right now. I cannot see Dutch letting this pass. Went to teach Angelo Bronte a lesson. Taught him something, I guess. Taught him alligators have a nasty way about them. Dutch is torn between his dreams of escaping and his need to prove something or other. I don't quite know what. Not sure he does. Wants us to make one last big haul of cash. Then flee to Tahiti. Retire and become farmers. Where the hell is Tahiti? I guess they don't have Pinkertons there. But at least all them years we dreamed of being ranchers out in virgin lands in the west. Where the hell is Tahiti? Now it's bananas and coconuts and long boat rides. Guess anywhere the train can get to, the law can get to. Dutch probably has it right. This country really don't want folk like us no more. From ocean to ocean, places going to law abiding and descend and dulled and rigged until folks have frozen themselves into nothingness. The people in the city are worse and more desperate than the nastiest gunslinger I have ever met. They'd shot you in the back and make you pay. For your own funeral, they throw shit on you for sport. They walk past the lost and starving like they can't see them. Keep feeling sick, but I'm sure it's nothing. This damn swamp ain't natural. R.I.P. Hosea. R.I.P. Lenny. My lord, what a goddamn mess. Everything, the bank job we planned so hard was a goddamn setup. Hosea got himself killed. Lenny got shot in the head. Marston got himself arrested and is waiting trial. We fled and leapt on a ship. Sailed into a storm. The ship sank. Whole thing like a dream. Like a fool's nightmare. I survived that and being lost at sea. And got washed ashore on an island called Guarma. Whatever Tahiti is like, I hope it ain't nothing like Guarma. Some nasty bastard named Fuzar had the people by the throat, and we ended up in a fight with a goddamn army. Javier nearly died. I nearly got killed. Met some real decent folks, brave folks living in a land of hell. We got a boat out of there, just about after some real nasty fighting. Don't think I met any folk deserved killing more than that piece of shit Fuzar. Upon returning, found the folk again, at least them as it ain't dead. But within a few hours, the Pinkerton had found all of us. Old Agent Milton wants us all dead, and yet somehow we survived and are now planning another escape. Not sure what happened next. Whole thing has been hard on all of us. Most of all on Dutch, who seemed half crazed by all we gone through. Turns out I'm not very well. Got tuberculosis. Doctor didn't know how long I would last. All of them bullets shot at me. All them horses threw at me. All them fights it was beating up that pathetic little fella Downs that killed me. I reckon. He's the only man I've been near. Was real sick. He begged for mercy, and I beat the bastard, and he died. And now I'm dying too. The way of the world. My mind is racing, of course. That monk and that nun, Downer's widow, Abigail, Mary. Dutch when I first knew him, Hosea, my dead pa, the no good bastard, the whole crowd of people. And what kind of man have I been? What kind of man am I? What world is this we live in? A land of fury or a place of love? Am I being prepared for eternal damnation? Am I past any kind of saving? Is that all fairy tales? Man ain't got much good in him. I ain't got no good in me. I don't think in yet I see goodness. I see it, if not in me, in good folks, in Abigail and her love for Jack, and that silly monk, and Downs, I guess begging not for himself but for the poor, even though he was near starving himself. Maybe I don't want salvation. Part of me has always longed for death. Well, here it comes, I suppose. Molly ratted us out. Dutch broke her heart, so she told the law about us. Explains how they found us so easily. I guess love does strange things to us all, even stranger than hate. She turned up drunk and mouthy and told us all this. She was so pathetic I wanted to spare her, but Miss Grimshaw put a bullet in her anyway. Guess it was right. Guess there weren't much of a choice. This was in our new camp, high in some nasty country, bad lands or as bad as we can find. This for the east. The place we are holed up used to belong to a bunch of murderers. The Murphys or some nonsense like that they call themselves. We shot some of them, but there's more lurking in the woods around this place. Don't think we have long here before the law or the Pinkertons finds us again. I just hope we can keep ahead of them for a while, or ahead of ourselves. Apparently that weird sketch he gave me is worth a lot of money, and Charles is a world famous artist. Saw that Downs kid being beaten up, so helped him. Maybe I shouldn't have killed his poor father if I cared so goddamn much. What a conflicted fool I've become, or have always been. Then I tried to rescue his mother, who was in the process of getting herself murdered. Maybe she wanted that. I don't know. She looked at me like I am what I am, a killer seeking out salvation. Only I'm not. I don't want saving. I don't deserve it. I just want to help a few folks. And sure as shit I owe her. Felt like a fraud and a fool, but at least I did something. Found a raving lunatic, completely raving. Took him back to a village nearby, Butcher's Creek. Something ain't right there. Some kind of village elder, Obadiah maybe, appeared. He spoke mostly nonsense. Weird place. Something's not right at all. Old blackmailing Lemieux has himself been threatened by his own assistant. A chap I never liked too much, name of John Mark, I think. So I go hunting for John Mark. Only John Mark is a noble believer in truth and honesty, and cannot stand his boss's lies. I'm charged with killing him. I cannot do it. John Mark is irritating, but the mayor is worse. The mayor is all that is bad, and those who rule over us. And it ain't my business at all. So I let them live, and I let them deal with it. themselves. I guess I'm through with politics. For some insane reason, I went out gathering debts for Strauss. Whole business revolted me. Bunch of sad, desperate bastards and me their worst nightmare. I'd had enough of the whole business, so I ran Strauss out of camp. Whole business of loaning revolted me. Turns out it's going to kill me. It's going to kill me too. So I guess that's about right. Probably did Strauss a favor running him out of camp. But either way, I could not bear to see his beady little eyes no more. Sight of that poor soldier and his squaw wife will be with me when I die. That tree, that robot. Went to see the professor at his lab. He had built a sort of mechanical sun. He seemed to think it was amazing, but we could not get the thing to work properly. I was not a half as impressed with him as he was with me. Went back to the place, Butcher's Creek. The locals thought they were being attacked by demons, but I think they were just sick dogs. Seemed like Obadiah the Elder is also possessed by this snake oil shaman fella that turned up. He wants me to destroy some cursed charms in the woods around there. We shall see quite what the shaman's game is, but there's some nonsense afoot. Destroyed those charms, went back to the village. Now the shaman announces things are worse because I destroyed the charms. Remarkably convenient. I was about to give him a beating when he ran off. The elder said the shaman was interested in the mine shaft. Perhaps that's worth a look. Went to the mine looking to figure what hold that weird shaman has over the village. I don't know why exactly, just seemed important. I guess the whole place was filthy and something nasty was leaking into the water and the soil. I'm no expert, but that stuff might well explain why all the folks in Butcher Creek are so odd. Anyway, I made my way back to the village, armed with this knowledge and a little of the evil-looking water. Lo and behold, I find the shaman trying to force that duped elder into signing away his and the village's property, rights to get a mining company to leave. It was not quite clear which. The shaman started attacking me, so I forced him to drink some of the runoff. He admits all promptly loses his mind, and I'm waiting around to be treated like the hero I am, or not. The villagers blamed that curse. At this point, I left them to their dreams of specters. Siska Penitentiary from the air. Okay. Sadie Adler and I rescued Marston from prison, where he was awaiting hanging. Spied on them in a balloon, an event which was amazing and awful, and I thought would kill me quicker than the illness. Later, Sadie and I rescued him while getting shot at. I did it for Abigail, of course. In her own way, she finessed... in her own way, the finest woman I know. But also for Jack, and I guess Marston himself. I kind of like him. We've argued We've argued over the years, but I've grown to care a little for him. He's less of a fool than he was. And maybe he can have the luck that he has eluded me. Jack is an innocent little boy, and him. I see what I missed. We did it. This nigga's tired. Miss Adler and me then got attacked by Dutch. I went behind his back, sure, and he never likes that. But I suppose the years of blind loyalty is at the end. Loyal, yes, but not blind. Not until he opens his eyes as to the hell we are in, and who his friends really are. Micah, I no longer trust whatsoever, nor do I trust half of them, nor myself. Whole thing is a mess, and I cannot think clearly. Dutch in his infinity wisdom decided to shoot Leviticus Cornwall. Now, I'm not saying Cornwall did not need shooting, but I don't think it was quite our place to act As his judge and executioner, Micah and Dutch seem to be planning something. Seems like what they both want most of all is all of us dead. Saw Eagle flies, the chief's son again. Dutch was captivated by him, turned on all of his charm and convinced in confidence in seeming like a dangerous snake. What is wrong with him? Eagle Flies is desperate and angry. The local regiment are tormenting him and goading him into a fight. Now Dutch is in his ear. This will be a disaster. Poor old Karen has taken to drinking something awful. Thought Kareen was dead. Met a one-legged man, war veteran, interesting fella. Said to come by his cabin on the other side of the Orange Run. Maybe I will. Blew up a bridge with Marston, either to stop the army killing us quite so easily when we attempt to rob the last train, or because we want to encourage Uncle Sam to send another train full of payroll for us to rob. Whole thing seems even more ludicrous and moth-eating when I write it down. Dutch is now acting crazy and I'm acting crazy back. I'm facing death and acting foolish. I hope Marston uses his brain. The time for heroics and loyalty to people is over. The time is more acting right and saving the innocent, not the guilty. Boom. I went to speak to the chief about the situation. I helped him recover some precious things from the army. He gave me some medicine which helped me a little. He's a man who not so long ago I would have found weak and pathetic, and now I see as wise and thoughtful and sensible. I would love to help him, or at least stop Dutch pushing his son to do something real stupid. Saw Captain Monroe again, a good man in a difficult situation. This dump must seem a long way from the West Point and Washington. He cares about the Indians, but he ain't too friendly with the local regiment. Helped him distribute some vaccines others were not so keen to offer about. Things went from bad to worse with the army. I was not wrong. The local regiment colonel despised Captain Monroe and planned to destroy him. Rescued Monroe and probably ruined his life in the process. I hope he can find peace someplace. After putting him on the train, I bumped into that nun sister Calderon, bound for Mexico. She gave me a few home truths about existing in the world and perhaps the next. Maybe I have got something to hope for. Anybody is all sounded very pretty and took away all of that dread I'd be feeling. Got a letter from Mary. What did I expect? What did I want? Weren't never meant to be, and never really was. And yet somehow in the end I discovered I had a heart because it was broken. Oh, you fool, you sad, deluded fool, torn into two by different ideas of who you were, and it turns out you weren't neither of them. So we saw Colm O'Driscoll swing. Indeed, we did the law's job for them, as his boys were lined up to spring him, but we dealt with them. Dutch back to being himself, at least for a moment. Sadie likes a dog with a bone. Sadie's like a dog with a bone. Dog with a bone. Although she ain't done with them yet, I don't imagine. Wonder if this will calm Dutch down and we can get back to surviving ourselves, rather than just killing them we despise. Killing them we despise. I didn't feel too much. Bastard wanted to kill me, but he didn't want to that much. And I guess I felt about the same. He weren't ever exactly my fight, really. And now my fight is really different, with a different enemy, one I cannot see nor put a bullet into. Him and his boys was our fault, alright, but did we ever exist, or were we just a group of individuals, each just falling for Dutch's dumb blusters? I feel like I don't know nothing anymore. That whole life of certainty's over. My whole code that I lived and killed by, was it true, or was there a bigger truth I was too dumb to ever see? Me met a real pair of, well, I began to try to remember them, but they were Greek or Latin or gibberish, pair of twins, dead keen on insulting each other and hitting each other to impress a woman. I'd done lots of stupid things to impress a woman, but this was ridiculous. I ended up being William Tell. I think they was college boys. Guess education ain't always the answer to mankind's problems. Nice enough boys, but odd as hell. Oh, I'm tired as shit. What time is it? It's 2 a.m. Are you serious? Okay. Went to see the fellow Hamish Sinclair. He's quite a sportsman and outdoorsman. Went fishing for pike. Got him in the end. Wants to take me hunting. Hamish, not the pike. Okay. Went back and someone or something had killed the professor. His mechanical creature had been stolen. Went with Charles to save Eagle Flies. They was going to hang him, I think. Rescued him out from Fort Wallace in a storm. I don't feel so good. I see clearly and I see nothing at all. Whole place has gone to hell. Dutch talking nonsense and folks undecided as to if they see him as the only hope or an anchor, dragging us all to the bottom of the ocean. I hope John has more brains in his head than sometimes I hear he does. I should have, well, it's a bit late for regrets. There's a whole lot I should have done, and even more I shouldn't have done. But I suppose every man has enough regrets as to let him die happy. But hope I did some good once I learnt to see the world for what it was. Ain't my fault the process took quite as long as it did. Oh, Mary, be happy, please be happy. Tilly, Mary Beth, save Corinne if she ain't too far gone. John protected Abigail and Jack. Rain falls, save your son as you could not save your people. Dutch, start listening to them as really loved you. Listening to them as really loved you. Okay. Saw them weird boys again with the equally weird names. This time they asked me to give them a beating. I cannot even try to understand them. Found a fella caught in a bear trap a while back. Decided on a whim to save him. Then bumped into him in town. Guy gave me some store credit as thanks. Guess it sometimes pays to help folks out. Being back in the country made me dig up Arthur's old journal. Odd few years wandering now back here, this country that we ran to when things went crazy all those years ago. My mind is full of ghosts. Been a tough few years. Jack don't like me, and Abigail cannot stand me. Or is it the reversed? That's John. The last thing was pays to help folks out. And then it was those boys. The last thing was John, protect Abigail and Jack. Rainfall, save your son, as you could not save your people. Dutch, start listening to them as really loved you. Makes no sense. So yeah, that was Arthur's last words. And then John started talking about how he hates him. Killed a fella because he looked at me funny. Abigail wanted me to settle down to what? Everything I've tried has gone wrong for so long now, and now I'm back in the old country. Well, I guess the north didn't turn out so good. Wonder if there's anything in these treasure maps. I'll get them, John, eventually. So now I'm a farmhand until I lose my temper again, I guess. Working at a place called Pronghorn's Ranch. They seem to like me because I'm big and nasty, and they surely ain't. And some local tough guy seems to know they ain't. Well, I guess Abigail can't have everything, but she won't be able to deny I've at least got a normal job. Oof. I'm not much of a rancher, but I can still give a big mouth a good smack. Abigail still seems to despise me. Jack ain't sure, but I reckon he ain't too keen. None too keen. She went and left me. Gave me enough warning, I suppose. She weren't wrong. I'd leave me if I could. What now? No son, no woman, and a no good ranch. On a no good ranch. These rich bastards, the Larmies, want old Gita's dead. If I had a brain, I'd go work for them. But I kinda like Gita's. Saw Sadie Adler again. Guess I thought she'd been dead. Maybe it's just me that's been dead. I don't know. What good to see her. She's a bounty hunter and suited to the work. Saw her put a knife clean through the hands of some big old boy she was fighting with. Ain't seen her since she and Arthur saved Abigail, and then Arthur saved my life. We headed north and she turned to the line of work. Good news, I now own a ranch. Bad news, I now have Uncle with me. Or is that reverse? If he doesn't shut his mouth, I'll paint this place with his blood. I bought a dumpy bit of land for Abigail and she ain't here. Instead, I got Uncle. How the hell did this happen? I got the worst of all things. I miss Abigail. I've been a proper fool for longer than I can remember, for always. American Ginsburg. Went to St. Denis with Uncle because Charles Smith was there and in trouble. Charles had taken to boxing. It did not seem in too much trouble after all until he stumbled into some local gangster who wanted to shoot both of us. But now he's here and I've got myself a completely different family to the one I had a while ago. Not sure what to make of that. The countryside is full of some of the worst scum and maniacs I've ever come across. Guess we fit right in. We went to buy lumber to build a new house. Got jumped by some local gang everyone is terrified by. A hand Charles had hired got himself killed. Wonder if these bastards will bring trouble and how much. Built ourselves a place to live. Never thought I would say those words. Now I just need a family and a way of paying all of these debts. Went off bounty hunting with Sadie, who I'd met again after all these years, and the whole thing turned crazy. Thank God Abigail weren't around, or she'd have skinned me herself. Abigail and Jack came back. Whole of my life suddenly making some kind of sense. And if only I could pay off these damn debts. And if only I could have been a different man all these years. I wasted being a fool. Honestly. I'm getting married. She thinks I'm a real fool, and she's right. Only she don't know quite why I am a fool. We got married and we danced and Uncle made us laugh and Jack seemed really happy. Sadie left after she fixed herself up. Charles went off hunting something or other, as I knew he would. Uncle ain't going nowhere. Saw Dutch. Damn near broke my heart again. After all this time, wanted to kill him, but I didn't. Saw Micah and was never gladder to see a man die. Whatever peace and happiness I can find in this world, I know it's a better place with him out of it. That was the last one. And that was Arthur's journal. This man is out of it. And the horse just chilling. But yeah, that's about it. Yeah, it's 2 a.m. My reading was not up to par because I'm brother tired. I ain't even finna lie to you. Bye, did my horse, did my fish spoil? No, I didn't. We good. Bye.